Hello, everyone. Oh, golly, I've forgotten the whole light thing again. I look like I'm sitting in the dark. Oh, come on, play with me. Eh, there it is. That's better. Now at least I don't look like I'm all dark. Um, I have left it really late in the day today. I thought different people might catch me, so it's quite interesting to see who's on. It seems to be people who stay up till the early hours of the night. So early hours of the morning. I've just put something in the bin, and it must have been something like fiberglass, and I've got all these little sticky things in me. Hey Felice, how you going? First on today. um, so I had a midday nap again because I don't sleep so well at night, and I know a lot of other people do the same thing. I'm always up 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I can't seem to sleep beyond that. It doesn't matter if I go to bed at midnight or whether I go to bed at 8 o'clock. I can go to bed at 7:30. I still wake up at the same time. How are you? Hey, Janet. Yeah, so I often have a little bit of a nana nap, and because I'm off today, I go back to work tomorrow. I thought, you know what, I'm going to watch a bit of Supernatural. I watched a couple of episodes of Supernatural. I just started at the beginning again, and I thought, oh, I'll just do. I don't remember anything. I went out to it for like 2 hours. Hey, Jules, how you going? 2 hours, like boom. I've just woken up and went, oh my goodness, and I have things to do, and I'm still unpacking the elephant cupboard too. So probably about half a box, bit under half a box left. I broke 2 elephants in my travels, and that's a bit sad because most of them I've had for many, many years. So I had a little cut crystal one that broke its trunk, and a beautiful, colourful glass one that my friend gave me many years ago that I broke too. So, oh well, collateral damage, I guess. Years ago I would have been devastated. Now I'm like, whatever. I had a little joke with somebody. Look at me, I've got a tracksuit on and a t-shirt, and there's nothing glamorous about being at home. And I said to someone yesterday, this guy, hey Haley, how you going? This guy I know said, when things go back to normal, do you want to go on a date? And I went, oh, I probably wouldn't fit into anything at the moment. I didn't say that to him though. I didn't say that to him, but I sat there thinking, oh my goodness, I don't think I'll fit into anything by the time I get out of this time period. Oh dear, unless I can go out in a tent or something. Maybe I can find something to wear, but it probably might be a tracksuit. Who knows? Tracksuit and pajama pants. I guess if he likes me enough, he'll be happy with that, right? All righty. I'm going to pull a card from the Animal Spirit Guidebook. I'm very well, thanks, Haley. I hope you're well. Yeah, Sam and Dean. When I was younger, I was such a Sam fan, but I'm a Dean fan now. I'll read the clothes. Yeah, I don't know. I lost so much weight last year, getting healthy, and this year it's just like, look, I've not been silly, but I have been eating chocolate every day. Every time I go shopping, I think, well, it's the only thing in the shop I can be sure of getting. I don't have any toilet papers. I might as well get chocolate. No, I do have toilet paper. Don't panic. All right, I do. My daughter makes sure she gets some for me when it's there, or her partner does anyway. So I do have toilet paper. Let's pull a card for you from the Animal Spirit Guidebook. Okay. Oh, that's nice. We have the earthworm. Getting to know this deck anyway, which is really nice. The earthworm. I would say that's an earth sign, right? There he is. Okay, this is about being shy, hesitant, reluctant to share inner vision. I've been doing a whole lot of sharing on here lately. We all have felt the woes of the earthworm at some point along the way. The earthworm indicates a newbie or novice working to establish confidence in a new field. Others around you may seem wise and experienced, but it's important to remember that they once felt earthworm energy too. This card is a reminder not to be intimidated or lose hope. Mastery takes time and you're on the right track. Besides, rumor has it it's beginner's mind that offers the most valuable insights. Isn't that beautiful? What a great conversation I could have around that. I am so not ageist in that regard. Like, I always think I learn from other people all the time, whether they're younger, older. I don't really see that it's an age thing. Rumor has it it's a beginner's mind. So I don't know, maybe we're learning from others at this time. Maybe some people that we see on the media and in other places, Facebook and everything. I think I always thought people were really clever, and then I see some of the things they say. Bello, Scott. Bello, you're having a nice day. I think, yeah, I think that, I probably have admired people over the years, and then sometimes I see people when they're sort of in these situations and they don't show the best side of themselves. And I've had people say to me, and I think people think because you're spiritual, I don't know, I've got this whole thing going on here, this wave thing, because people think you're spiritual, they think that you should always be incredibly tolerant of others. And I'm not always incredibly tolerant of others, much the same as all of you, I'm sure. And I think sometimes, we're all human beings, and yes, we can fall over and sort of do, crazy things, say crazy things. But sometimes I think people really only consider that what they can see here in the mirror. That's it. They don't seem to have any kindness or anything nice to say about others. So sometimes when I hear people who are, just sort of perhaps speaking out, when you're sitting at the table and somebody's incredibly quiet, and I used to always note that when I was doing things, and I used to always say, without sort of putting people on the spot, does anybody else have anything to say? Because some people have really loud, oh, you're putting it together. Thank you. It was a beautiful card. And I used to say, when you were in a great group, I'd see someone being ignored, and I think, I'm not going to pick that person out because they're being incredibly quiet. But you can see by their body language they want to say something. So I'd sort of be, does anybody have anything to add? And I'd sort of give them a little bit of a nod to show that I acknowledged that I could see they would. And sometimes the quietest people who barely say anything have the most amazing, insightful things to say. And it never stopped amazing me that how sometimes we overlook people that are quiet because we are so used to the loud people taking over. And I feel like I learned so much from the really quiet people. And I guess when you're looking at beginners' things, don't discount the things that the quiet people have to say because the loud people make so much noise. It doesn't work that way. And I think over the years, I've learned that young people have these judgments that they put on people. I know years ago, I've worked everywhere. So let's just say I was working at Centrelink. And for the people not from here, that's sort of like our social services, government payment department. And I remember somebody saying to me, what do you know? I'll tell you the story sometime about how people mistake me for stupid things. I got sent out of my daughter's school for not being in a class one day. I had 3 children. But anyway, this woman said to me, how would you know? You don't have any children. And I stood there for a moment. I thought, I know people who don't have children who are far more knowledgeable about children than people who do have children. I know people who have children who probably don't know as much as them. So I've got really open-minded. Hey, Susan, how you going? And Kiki, how you going? And I realise now, like the quiet people, the people who don't say anything, listen to what they've got to say, but also don't make those sort of sweeping judgments on people either, because we tend to sort of bag people up in a collective and say, how would you know? You're not going to know anything because you haven't experienced this before. And I found that really difficult. When I was working disabilities, because people would say all the time, we'd want somebody who's got a disability to work with us, or that we'd like someone that has this particular type of disability because they would know more about this than someone else. And I think that's really strange, to want someone that you think might have more knowledge than someone else. And it's just not true. So you can't make the decision that one person has more knowledge than the other. You just can't do it unless you actually know that. So I've got a story that probably is a really good indicator of this. And I have twin grandsons who are absolutely the most beautiful boys, and they have autism. They're both level 2. Oh, thank you, Panda Love. They're 6 and they're gorgeous. One of them is very articulate. He spoke from a very young age. They all met their milestones as kids. They were very, very determined. I remember them both getting up and walking, probably a little under 10 months, and within a week they were running around the house. Like, they were just crazy kids. Anyway, they're very, very bright. Yeah, 6 rocks, it really does. Aidan was really very, very articulate, spoke a lot. He was a crazy kid, talked all the time, and Evan barely said boo. And when Evan did talk, it was really muffled. And I used to say, this was before we knew they had autism, and I used to say to Sarah, I'm sure he's got a hearing problem. It sounds like he's not hearing things right. Anyway, she had them both tested at somewhere between about 2 and 3, I think it was. And they sort of said to her, you should have bought them earlier, but we didn't know much about it then anyway. And I'd been living with her. I went and lived with her for 12 months to help her with them, because they weren't difficult. It was just different having twins, I guess. Anyway, so Evan didn't speak. Evan speaks beautifully now. He still sort of mumbles some words, and sometimes I have to ask him to repeat himself because I can't understand him. But most of the time now he speaks really good. Anyway, it was quite interesting because they both sort of split the autism spectrum, I guess, points really, where one had a lot of the attributes and one had the other half of the attributes, which was a little different. So Evan was very much about building, doing things in rows, building things high. That's what made me start to realize it was autism. Aidan was very different, but Aidan had these meltdowns, and he, from the very young age, went absolutely crazy. He would start throwing things, this tiny little child, and he would find these big things to throw, would get so angry, and he would like zone out. He had terrible night terrors, and he would zone out completely, and you just have to wait. You just have to watch that he didn't hurt himself in the process. Anyway, when they started school, the first few weeks at school, they didn't have teachers for them, and they used, I guess, people that were teachers, but not specialist teachers. And they were so fabulous. Those boys settled into school beautifully, and they settled into school beautifully. They were going really well. And then after probably a couple of months, they got in a teacher who was an autism specialist, and those kids went absolutely crazy. We went right back to the beginning with Aidan. He had to be medicated because of his temper swings, mood swings. Evan went even further back into himself, and the both of them were just not doing well. I remember my daughter and I sort of crying on the phone because we just didn't know what to do with them at all. Anyway, my daughter was called up to school. They kept sending Aidan home all the time because of his temper. And I used to watch this little boy and think, what is going to happen to him? What will happen? Anyway, to cut a long story short, that particular teacher, I don't know what happened to her, but she was moved out of working with the twins and the other kids that were there too. There's about 6 in their sort of special needs class, or whatever they call it. Anyway, they brought in 2 teachers who had no experience with autism again, and they've been with those teachers for 2 years. And after they brought those teachers in, Aidan came off his medication. He doesn't hardly have any sort of temper tantrums now at all. And Evan's speech is almost up to, hey, how you going? Is almost up to where Aidan is. I can barely tell the difference in their voices anymore because they're both speaking so well. So I guess what I'm trying to say is you cannot make a judgment. I would have thought somebody who had experience with autism and had done the learning, tracksuits and pajama pants, Gillian, tracksuits and pajama pants. people who had that knowledge would be far more suited to work with people who, had that particular disability, and it really proved me wrong. So those two teachers are still working with the kids now. He's doing amazing too. Yeah. I think that understanding autism, I don't know why the particular teacher who was teaching them was trying to, I guess, work against them. And it's really hard with autism to try and work in a particular way without considering their learning needs. I guess that's the best way to say it, because the pair of them now just are doing so well. Aidan got the School Award last year for most changed and most improved. He's had a few awards since. He's a very smart, well, they both are very smart, so it's nothing to do with their level of intelligence or learning. They're both clever boys, but they had their own challenges, and it's crazy. My daughter has hardly any problem or issue with them at all anymore, and she was worried about having them home during the school holidays because they love their routines, of course, and they've been fabulous. They've been really enjoying it. Exactly, Hayley. And I think that is really, we were talking about this learning stuff the other day. Some kids just don't respond to a learning environment like we think they should. When we were kids, we used to never be able to leave our desk. You weren't allowed to go to the toilet until it came a break, and we sat in rows and we were separated. Of course, social distancing was all the rage in our maths class. We were sat in little rows, like all the way along, one at a time, so you couldn't cheat. Sleepwear is going to be all the rage. I think some of those sleepwear people are going to make a fortune at the moment. And our teacher we weren't allowed to talk, so she would just walk up and down the things while we sat there for whatever it would have been, a couple of hours. I am well, Scott. Thank you. I hope you're well. So it's quite interesting. So coming back to the whole idea of understanding that sometimes the quiet people have a lot to say, and you shouldn't disregard them because they don't have big voices. We still did cheat. I think I wouldn't have done in class. I would have been too scared, especially of that particular teacher. I'm pretty sure at that time she seemed to be really old at that time, but I was terrified of her. Her name was Mrs. Hicks. I'll never forget the name. But I think I'd have been too scared to do anything in her class. Once I got older, it was different though. And then once I got to the rebellious age, I didn't care. But anyway, so it's really interesting to see how the world works, and how perhaps sometimes we don't think that people who have the experience, or people who are, and that all comes from the earthworm, because we're talking about beginners having lots of knowledge. Don't discount the quiet ones. That's what I say. Very interesting. So what does everybody want to talk about today? Let's have a look. We've got someone from Brazil here. Hey, Leandra, how are you going? I've been talking all over the world today. I think I've been talking to, I was talking to Trinidad this morning, and I was talking to this US a couple of times as well today. So I've been all over the place, Melbourne and a few other places. So I love my job, this one, not my other ones so much, but that's what I was going to talk about, vibration. That's right. So let's have a quick talk about that. I had a dream the other night. I had a dream that, and I have very vivid dreams, always have had. And sometimes I see things in my dreams and they apply later. But what happened was somebody gave me a document in my dream and said to me, this is your score. And I was like, okay, show me what it is. And it was this big document. I'm reading through it, and it said I was a 5.4 in the twin flame game, a 5.4. So I was like, I wonder what that can mean. And so I was reading something yesterday that somebody put on Facebook, which was very interesting, about vibrations. And it was vibration. And I was thinking, a lot of people say to me, when I'm talking about vibrating in terms of your energy. So I was many, many years ago, I had a vision And I do a lot of that lucid dreaming, and I'm sure some of you do that, where you're sort of in between dream and wake state. And Spirit had shown me something about vibration and was talking to me about raising my vibration. And I never really heard that expression before. And they were saying to me, this was long before I knew anything about energy. Of course, I know a lot now because I went and checked it all out and studied it and whatever. And I read about, the fact that everything vibrates at a certain level. Even things that seem solid vibrate. I mean, glass, if it's left on a lean for a long time, actually starts to bend. So, everything has a vibration. And some people can measure, hey, Louisa, how you going? Thank you. And to yours too. Anyway, so I was talking about people vibrating at a certain level. So when you're in a low vibration, if you're depressed, unhappy, sad, you could be in a low vibration for a little while you're feeling those emotions. But sometimes people vibrate very low and it feels uncomfortable to be around them. And you would know what I'm talking about by that. They feel like they drain your energy because they're vibrating very low. So people in that real victim mentality, or people who are really down, Debbie Downers. And they drain a lot of our energy because if they're vibrating low, they're pulling or drawing off us at a higher vibration. And sometimes we come away from people feeling very, very drained. One of the quiet ones, Scott. And we come away from people feeling really drained. So I know some of you have read the Celestine prophecies, which talks about energy vampires. Some of those people are unable to vibrate at a good level themselves or at healthy levels. So sometimes they sort of drain us of our energy. And that's all the vibration, all the different vibrations you're at. So when you're happy and you're really content and you're grateful, this is why when you're trying to manifest, you're being told to be in a vibration of gratitude or thankfulness, because when you're in that high vibration, you glow. You feel happy and people can sense it. They can feel it around you. The thing is, when you're vibrating like that, very often other people take that energy from you. So sometimes you can find, if you're highly empathic, and a lot of people I'm sure will relate to this, if you come home from somewhere where there's a lot of people, you can feel very drained. Shopping centres, places, concerts, museums, anywhere where there's lots of people around, sometimes you can come out feeling quite drained of your energy. And I'm always, when people say they do that, I'm always like, you need to protect your aura, because your aura is vibrating high and other people are drawing from that. And sometimes it can be quite distressing. And I guess at the moment, you see, where a lot of us aren't around other people. So if you've ever noticed how drained you are when you're around other people, when you're on your own for periods of time, you start to recharge again. And it gets to the point with me where I'm ready to bounce off walls because I've got all this energy I'm not used to having, which is great because then I can go and play with grandkids. But anyway, so back to the whole vibration thing. So we all vibrate differently. People who are more spiritual, more in tune with the universe, are usually sort of starting to vibrate at a very similar level to their environment. And other people vibrate very low because they don't have, I guess, the capacity to tune into that higher vibration. Everybody can do it. It doesn't make any difference. It's just a matter of understanding that, being grateful and thankful usually has you vibrating at a slightly higher level. Yeah, so Louisa says you do. Yeah, and I've had people say to me, when I sort of say, I bet that, if they've been dealing with someone like an abusive relationship and they're very flat, very low, and they're talking about something about their relationship and they say they feel so tired all the time, they're so drained by it, and you're like, I know exactly why you're like you are. So I always talk to people about actually protecting yourself with that, and I learned that a long time ago through working with, because I worked in youth homelessness for years and I found that very draining. Not just because of the kids I was working with, but because of their families, and I think some of the workers probably too. But that vibrating low. And And I remember talking to people so many times over the years about how to protect yourself. And people say, well, how do I protect myself? And I think, well, if you're getting really experienced at it, you can work out how wide your aura is, which is really good for you to practice. So when you're sitting in a room by yourself, have a feel and see if you can work out, because if you're at home and you're not around others, you probably keep your aura quite open, because you haven't got to worry about people coming into your aura, and at home you're safe. But when you go out into the community, sometimes, especially on the train, I felt it a lot going on the trains backwards and forwards to Sydney, and I'd have to really pull in my vibration, because if I didn't, somebody would come and sit next to me and I would feel them really draining me after a while. And they don't necessarily have to talk to you, they can just be around you and still manage to drain your energy. So if you're going to be more susceptible to that, or you do understand how delicate your energy is, eventually you could learn to pull in your aura, which is how I do it. But for a lot of people, I always talk to them about putting prayers of protection on themselves before they leave the home in the morning, or doing some sort of visual to make sure that they're pulling their aura back in and keeping it nice and tight. Because if you don't, you walk out with this sort of like huge aura, and everybody starts to feel pulled or drawn towards that and will come into your aura and start to drain that energy. So if you feel that you need to do that, you can find prayers of protection, or you can ask the archangels or archangels, whatever you like to call them, to come in and work with you with that energy and help you work with that. I find if I go somewhere where it's really draining, I might need to call on their help 2 or 3 times, because my energy just won't. I'm trying to think of the War Memorial in Canberra. That was probably the most distressing one I've ever had. I couldn't even make it through the War Memorial before I started to. There's so many energies in there. There's so much going on at a different level that it is so draining that I had to keep going and saying I just have to go outside for a little while and just recharge, because the people in there are often very sad walking around. It's a pretty sad place. It's very interesting, but it's also really sad, watching people go to war and die. Like, that's just not a really good thing to have to do. But the place is so interesting, that I wanted to have a look. Yeah, you do too. Yeah, sometimes I'm good. Sometimes I can put a bit of protection on in the morning and I'm good for the day. But other times, no. And I do wear, some crystals to help protect against having your energy taken. And I remember one time where I was working got so bad that I was carrying crystals in my pockets as well to try and ward off some of the see, there you go, Hayley. Hayley says, sorry, I hope you don't mind, Hayley. She says she puts a golden orb around her before she walks out of her door or before entering a crowd. Shopping centres are really difficult. They really do drain your energy. The first time anybody told me, I think I was saying I was working with homeless kids, and I was working a lot with Aboriginal children. And I found that very draining because they're quite sort of naturally spiritual. And I found that I would be so tired. Anyway, this Aboriginal worker that I was working with said to me, you need to start protecting yourself, because she could see me draining from my energy. And she said to me, just imagine yourself going out in the morning and putting a big condom over yourself. I was like, I had a bit of a chuckle about it, but there you go. Yeah, see, Joanne's everybody does it differently. It's what's good for you, what feels right for you. But the whole idea of the condom was a very simplified concept for me. Of course, we're talking many years ago now. And it was a really simplified idea. But it worked to start with. And then, of course, once I know something, I go and I try to understand what that's all about. And that was a pretty big journey for me, really understanding my own vibration. Crystals are great. Black obsidian, black tourmaline, very strong protective crystals. Amethyst. I wear amethyst and sugar light. I'm trying. There's quite a lot of them though, so you have to find out what works for you. Some people wear a bracelet. Other of us, I've got those little net bags, and I just fill them up and put them in my bra if I'm going somewhere where I think I might need that protection. The same with healing. I don't know a lot about crystals, so if people have some interesting things to share, please send them through to me, and perhaps we can do a little bit of talking on what crystals are best for you to wear. When I'm doing readings, I very often clutch clear quartz. Clear quartz will restore energy because it can be quite, I don't want to say draining. Sometimes it is draining doing lots of readings if you go to a fair and you're there all day. But most times I can do a day's readings or several, like vampires, exactly. I can do several readings and feel still quite good. Black crystals, I think it's obsidian, tourmaline. There's another one too, but I can't remember what it is. Black tourmaline's beautiful. See, that's it, Scott. That's what I'm talking about. So you have to remember that feeling sad and wanting to cry in those places is actually your energy going down, dropping. Labradorite is beautiful. I actually have some really stunning labradorite earrings. So I started wearing crystal earrings. So if I didn't have crystals with me, at least I had some on me. Labradorite really is beautiful, and it really helps with some things. I know that somebody gave me some labradorite some years ago, and I found it quite powerful, and that's why I said I went and bought some earrings. So it's what feels right to you too, because not all crystals will feel right. Somebody said to me once that they found it really difficult to have too much clear quartz around, but I find clear quartz is really helps me to recharge, keeps me charged while I'm going. I do have some crystals on the table behind me there, but not so many. A friend of mine bought me a beautiful amethyst piece. I don't know where that is. Probably can't see it from here either. So I do have some really large crystals around, but personally, the ones that I find are really good. Amethyst's always good for me. To have around for energy or for holding on to my energy. Clear quartz. I use a lot of rose quartz and moonstone around me when I feel that I need those. So, there we go. Jules has said fluorite repels negative energy and protests. But see, there you go. Fluorite might be a really good one for you. Yes, Scott, what you have to do is you have to start protecting your energy. Because if you're being pulled down to a low level, it will make you quite sad and wanting to cry. And that's what I said. Sometimes the energy is just so strong because what you're doing, in effect, is you're absorbing everybody else's energy. So if you're absorbing everybody else's energy because you haven't got protection on you, what happens is your own energy starts to drain to help them out. So you're sort of like helping others out by sending all your energy out to them and not keeping it for yourself. Hypersthene is a black crystal. It reflects negative energy. There we go. So we've got fluorite and hypersthene. I know. And Louisa, I'm getting really good at it now. Now I know how to protect myself, and I understand when people are drawing my energy now. I can almost see it. It's almost palpable. And I just have to stop. Sometimes I just go into a bathroom and do a little bit of meditation for a couple of minutes just to protect myself again. But I've been around one person like that that's made me feel when I've gone, it reminds me of the succubuses. I just think about Sam and Dean because I'm pretty sure they had a couple in theirs where, somebody sucks all your energy and you feel really old and withered and you feel like you've got nothing left to give. Some people are really, really good there. Oh, Hayley, you agree with me. Yeah, amethyst and clear quartz are two crystals that I really find resonate with my vibration quite a bit. But I guess it's different for different people. As I said, you have to find what feels right for you. Yeah, it is very bad. Some people are just absolutely clueless about how they are with you. And I've had to come home and have a sleep after being around someone for such a short period of time. And sometimes I'm talking to them, especially if you're working with people. Sorry, I always spit. And you're sitting there and you think, I'm just got to try and meditate while they're talking to me. So I've done meditations in, staff meetings, because people are so, they so consume your energy. And very often they're very attention seeking as well. So they're sort of crying out for that attention. And while they're doing that, they absorb everybody else's. So I don't think everybody realizes that. But yeah, you can come home at the end of a day feeling like you've met a succubus. It's so true. But then people are the other way around too. Like, I have a very good friend and I love spending time with her because I feel so energized after spending time with her. And at first I used to think, I hope I'm not draining her of her energy. And I said to her one day about it, she went, oh no, I feel the same way. So we actually pump each other up because we feel, oh, you think you've been a succubus? Why do you think that, Kiki? You feel that you've been draining other people's energy. And you know what? Like, I don't want to take away from people, and I certainly wouldn't want to take away from you. Oh, okay. Sometimes when we're feeling down, sometimes when we're really sad, when you sort of, let's talk a relationship breakup, and you're feeling really sad, you're feeling really down, you can't stop crying. We've all been there. And all you want to do is talk about it. And at first, everybody tolerates that because they feel wanting the sweetness of people. We all want the sweetness of people. That's not a bad thing. And sometimes we go around, to people's houses and we start, or meet up with friends, and we start to talk about our sadness. And then after a period of time, we feel like we're repeating ourselves, but we're so sad that we still keep talking about it. That's when you're vibrating low. That's when you're looking for other people's energy to try and lift you out of the gunk or the mess that you're in. And after a while, people don't want to listen to it anymore. And it's really sad because we want to still talk about it. But actually, other people start to realize that they can't help you. They've given you all the energy they can. And then they start to back off and fold up and go away too, because they can't give you the energy you need to pull back out of it. You have to start producing that energy yourself. So I think that, yes, I think that sometimes it's okay if you've experienced sadness or you're in a really sad place. A lot of us get down about things that may happen to us in life. And if we temporarily want to be around people because it makes us feel better, I think that's very healthy. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. What I'm talking about is the people who continually do it and never try to raise their own vibration. You're delightful. And you know what? If it was someone close to me doing it, I'd probably have that conversation with them. I'd probably say, wow, you're feeling really down at the moment. You probably need to go and get yourself some crystals and maybe do a few meditations and get your vibration up a little bit. What I'm talking about is the people that just do not know that their vibration pulls everybody else's down. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the temporary pause that you need or the temporary support, the temporary love, that sweetness you get from people who are being kind to you when you really need it. Not that sort of stuff. I'm talking about the people who never seem to be happy with their lot. No, you're not a succubus. That's what, when you said it, I thought, no, it's very unlikely that you would be that way. Just a whiner. My darling, we're all whiners every now and again. Just being a whiner, a whinger, whatever it is, every now and again is okay. It's just when it starts to pull your vibration down so low that you feel low all the time, then you could probably do with getting some meditations under your belt, or maybe some affirmations are fabulous. That's right. We all whinge. We all have, times when we gripe and moan. And that's okay, as long as we're not doing it all the time and we're that unhappy with it. Do you tell friends they need sex? Not very good to tell people that don't have anybody to have sex. Oh, well, that's probably, I hope we've got too many people on here watching us. Go for it, Nikki. Please ask a question. I think people, we do that, don't we? We do that thing where we say people are really unhappy. They just need to go out and get themselves a good bonk so they can feel better. Okay. You've been mad depressed since 2018. Wow, that's a long time. I know a lot of people nowadays, absolutely the most beautiful people who are on antidepressants because they can't pull themselves out of that sort of slump. So don't feel bad if you're finding that if you are sad or depressed. There's no judgment here whatsoever at all. Because everybody seems to go through slumps, and I have a couple of people in my life who have had, really severe depression, and they go really well on antidepressants, and antidepressants do definitely help them. So I'm not sort of talking about sort of being depressed so much as being needing the energy of others to make you feel better about yourself. That's a little different. Who was asking me? Nikki, you had a question. Did you want to pop your question up there? If you feel comfortable asking in front of everybody. It's a very, very close-knit group here, so I wouldn't worry too much. I haven't seen any. I watch the comments. Believe me, if anybody was negative or mean on there, they'd be off there as quick as Jack Flash. So I'm talking more about vibrating and protecting yourself when you go out places against people bringing you down. You have no signal, Louisa. Is that no signal as in I haven't got a vibration, or no signal as in the internet keeps dropping out? Similar things. Your own personal internet's dropping out, or the internet? Let me know. Well, if there is nothing that anybody wants to talk about, if you want to talk about something, please put it up there. The vibration one's really cool though, because I talk to people about that all the time. I don't think they really always understand. Oh, your internet, not you. Yeah, the internet. My internet here was just awful when I first moved here, and I got really worried because I'd had good internet where I was before. And anyway, so I rang the internet company and said, my internet's not great. And they said to me, what do you do? And I was like, okay, I think because I'm an older person, they probably thought I might have an iPad. And I was like, have all this stuff and blah, blah. And the guy said to me, oh, you're on too low a plan. So they bumped up my plan. I think it was an extra $10 a month. And it's been fantastic. About twin flames. Okay. So somebody said here they tried to talk to people but feel like people don't care anymore. You don't help yourself. You only help those around you. Well, that's where your energy is going. If you always help everybody else and you don't help yourself, then you're giving your vibration away willingly. Yeah, let's do, okay. Been waiting for your divine masculine Joey, but for the past week I've been forced to walk away from my toxic baby dad. You're just scared. It's a really tough time at the moment. Being in this sort of environment and going through things that you've got nobody to really talk about. If you've been forced to walk away, Nikki, why are you scared? Are you scared because you're alone, or are you scared because Louisa, that's very sweet. I'm not quite sure what you're supposed to do. Okay, Deb from Alaska. The size of a crystal make a difference with its protection. You know what? I've never really thought about that, to be honest with you, because I carry pocket-sized crystals around with me, and I find they are ample enough. And the crystal I use when I'm reading is only about this, probably this big. And I find it vibrates really nicely with me. So I don't think it makes a difference on how big or small a crystal is. As you can see, I have some beautiful big crystals because I like them, and their vibration's nice in the room. But for myself, I have like a little glass tray of like smaller crystals to carry with me, and I find them quite sufficient. So no, I don't think it makes a difference. Okay, let me just have a look. We're all suffering. Let's talk twin flames tomorrow when I get on. Let's have a really good talk so everybody can talk about what's bothering them and get some feedback from other people. I'm just going to go back. Yeah, a lot of people are sort of worrying about twin flame stuff at the moment. I guess because we're not sort of out and about, but the whole idea of the twin flame relationship, just to keep it on very brief, is really comes down to that vibration thing, keeping your vibration high, doing things that will help you to vibrate at a higher level, because that is what a twin flame relationship relies on, is the telepathy between the both of you at that high level, so that you can already talk to each other through each other. So you need to keep your vibration high. Yeah, so I agree with Jules. It's a really nice way of saying it, Jules. I hope you don't mind me saying. The vibration of small crystals connects to the whole, so the size doesn't matter. So if you only have a little piece, it's still connecting to all the other crystals. Okay. Well, how about we do a twin flame one? We'll do it next weekend then, so that everybody can get on. How do you deal with this? Is fabulous. Oh, all these questions. How do you deal? Thank you, Aloha. How do you deal with people that's always negative that you live with? But you need to protect yourself all the time. So you would protect yourself in the morning when you get up, do a little prayer of protection. I would carry crystals with me. If you live with them, it's really difficult to get away from them. But remember, you need your alone time. Some people that are really, especially if they're really extroverted and looking for the energy beyond themselves, will sometimes not like it when you try to segregate or be on your own. I've had people say that to me. Why would you want to be alone? I'm like, I need to recharge. And some people don't understand that. There's a whole talk there between introvert and extrovert as well. So it becomes quite a complex subject. But if you're in a house with people who are vibrating really low, I would suggest you get crystals and put them around the house. And I would carry some crystal or wear crystal jewelry with a crystal that wards off the negativity. But most importantly, every morning before you get out of bed, or, before you go out amongst people, do a prayer of protection. Find what really fits with you, because I think that sometimes we do forget to protect ourselves. So be really cautious that you do that all the time. Where do we get to? Pisces, crystals for Pisces, everyone. Crystals for you if you're having a little bit of problem with the energies around you. Perhaps somebody could offer you some advice on how to raise your vibration. My thing is always about meditation. If you can't meditate and you find it difficult to meditate, then try tapping, EFT. There's a great guy on YouTube called Brad Yates, and he does tapping. And I find, especially with, because they can use it with children, traumatized children, because tapping is really easy for them to work through. But it sort of has a similar process in that it moves. Meditation's always best for that. And some great people. Joe Treacy is really good. He's got the most beautiful voice to listen to. And there's a few good people. Eric Brown's really good with the hypnosis stuff. All will help you to relax. Jules is saying that what you can do sometimes is look at people from a higher perspective and bless them. And sometimes, yes, giving them the energy, but then cutting that off. Oh, that was beautiful, Lenore. Did a great meditation this morning. I try to do a meditation every day. Some days I get up and I get so into everything that's going on, I forget to meditate. Mahalo. Sage, good for, you can use sage around your house sometimes for clearing negative energies. If you use sage, though, just be a little conscious that you need to make sure all your windows and doors are open in case you're chasing anything off. Haley, that's beautiful. hauling out a huge crystal looking for keys. So just, I think, doing meditations in the morning, and trying to make sure that you are protecting yourself. Number one thing, before you even leave the house, before you even leave your bedroom, and closing that down, making sure that you are keeping your aura nice and tight to you so other people can't draw from that. I hope that helped you out a little bit. Okay, so Nikki says she sees 222 here. I'm a 444 person. I always get the fours. One morning it was 4 degrees. I got out, the petrol was 44.40, and the petrol pump I was using was number 4. And I was like, wow, what are the chances of that? And I got in my car, and my car was at 4,400. All of the fours everywhere. It was just bizarre. I thought somebody's trying to get a message through. Bonnie Sarah Torres clearings and Reiki videos. I haven't heard of her, Deb. I'll have to have a look. Praying is meditation, Louisa. It's just a very different type. Jules gets ones. It's really interesting, isn't it? But yeah, I know they all have different meanings, all the numbers. No surprise, I'm surrounded by angels and ascended masters. I've had some beautiful conversations with some very what we would consider very powerful ascended masters. And that's been really cool. And the first time it happened, and I spoke to Gandhi, and I was really blown out by that. I actually thought I was a little crazy. But what he said to me, and I can't remember what it was now, but some of the stuff he said to me, and sometimes they whisper, and I'll just hear them whispering, and I think, what was that? And I'm not even sure who it is sometimes. But I always say the first thing that I really heard was when I had somebody whisper to me that I was the vessel for divine intervention. And I'll never forget that, because I was in the shopping centre, funnily enough. And I remember thinking, what a time to come and say that to me, but I didn't understand it. I probably would have been in my 20s then, and it really blew me away. But I've had some really powerful visions, images where I've really not been sure whether it's been real. I lucid dream a lot between the time I wake up in the morning and awakening. I would never share this with people. It seems quite strange I share it amongst the people I love, really, I do. But to come on here and talk about it would really, really blow me away. I'm trying to think. Somebody called me a sage. I had somebody say to me one day something about being a sage, and I would help many people in my lifetime. And I guess it's sort of funny really talking about it, because when I say it out loud, I think I'm really given and told. And I just try to use it to help others. And that is really not something I'm doing to satisfy my ego. Believe me, there is no reason for me to do that. I do what I do because I love to help other people. I genuinely love it. That's the way it is. Okay, Fahrenheit 54. That was a book, right? Just thinking of scoring your dream, 5.4. What was Fahrenheit? Do I interpret dreams for people? Sometimes I can, Scott. Sometimes dreams are really clear for me to interpret, but sometimes I think that it's difficult to interpret unless you can really look into it. Sometimes I can tune into the energy of a dream and tell you what it might mean. And if you read dream books, they very often have the basics there, but they don't always get the underlying message. So I would say it's probably good to read up what things like a house in your dream talks about your personality. Water in dreams talks about your emotions. So there's some really clear indicators, but sometimes you've got to sort of put them together and use a bit of your intuition to really pull out what something is trying to tell you. Sometimes it's really clear. But the dream I had with the 5.4, I can't still quite work out what they were telling me there. But I saw it clearly. It was written on the paper. There was a lot of writing, and they talked about something about a twin flame status. And I was like, so I'm a 5.4 on the twin flame spectrum. I have no idea. So I haven't still quite got what that one meant. No, talking about, no, it's not strange at all to talk about your dreams. Apart from your dreams, how do you figure out your spirit animal? You can do your spirit animal through meditation. The first time I got a spirit animal was not really that, probably only maybe about 20 years ago. And somebody took me on a meditation in a group. We were in a group. And they said, watch the animal that takes you, because an animal was going to take us on this journey in this meditation. And at that stage, I had a deer, a fallow deer. So, one of those ones that's spotty, the young ones. And that was the first time I'd ever noted that. But since then, of course, I get different animals all the time. I never seem to have the same animals with me. I seem to have a fox with me a lot. And the first time I sensed the fox, I was like, does that mean I'm sort of naughty or deceitful, or is there some other meaning here? But I think it was to learn how to use that cunning wile, that cleverness. So I worked that out. So I think animal spirits or animal guides tend to come and go. Sometimes when I'm reading for people, I get a really strong image, and I'm trying to think, because somebody not long ago, I could see horses all around them. And I said to her, do you ride horses? Because I just could see horses everywhere. And they actually had a stud farm, and she had a horse with her. So I think the animals tend to change more often, same as your spirit guides do too. You might have some guides that stay with you all the time, from different ways of being. But I think other people come and go depending on what you need from them at the time. So I don't think that is always a solid thing, that you've got, just one particular guide. I have several, and I've spoken to them all. I have one main guide, or whatever you see as their. We'll talk about that one day. The guide I have, people see often, and I know that they've got him right because they talk about how big he is, and I know he's really tall. And I know when people see him for that reason. But I think that some of the other guides I've had along the way come and go. Sometimes they seem to be with me and sometimes they're not. So I think they seem to tune into you when you need their energy. But for animals, yeah, I've along the way have had different animals, and birds, of course, too. Maybe something happened at 54. Now, that's really funny because 5 and 4 is 9, and I'm a life path 9. There you go. See, tarantula. That's interesting, Lenore. Camouflage fox is the master at hiding in plain sight. Very good. Nice. I like that. I have my main guide is to the right. Yeah, to the right. He stands on the right side of me. Yeah. But the others come and go. They don't really, you can pick your guides up through meditation as well. That's what I was talking about. The first time I saw one of the animal guides with me was a deer. Oh my God, Susan, I'm absolutely a bucket load of probably a lot of information you don't need to have. But when it comes to some of the spiritual things, I've been doing this for quite a long time. So, my ideas, the way I see things may not always resonate with everybody. Sometimes I hear people say things and I think that's not how I've been shown. I remember having a vision once, and it's been one of the most potent ones that stayed with me. And I remember spirit standing me in front of a forest, and the forest was really scary and it was really dark and the trees were really thick. And the spirit that was there said to me, go inside the forest. And I said, I don't want to. It's too scary. And they said, how would I ever work out how to conquer my fears unless I was to walk into the forest? And that the very thing that scared me was the forest itself. And I was like, wow, okay. So I really challenged myself now. Thanks, Scott. You're really beautiful. Okay. Um, uh, I think the best way, if you want to get to know your spirit guides, is to actually use a meditation. As I said, go on and check out Joe Treacy on YouTube, because he does a lot of meditations, and he's got this really powerful way of doing the meditations that really help you to get into them. His beautiful voice, velvety voice, and he gets you in really easily with his voice. So I would suggest go and have a look him up and see if he's got a meditation for meeting your spirit guides. Sometimes people can sense them, and other times they're hard to feel out. But you all have them. You all have them with you. It's just a matter of perhaps finding, if you can make contact with your main guide or the person who's around you all of the time. Just how long have I been on for? An hour. I can tell you about my story and see if that will help. I went to an energy healer years ago when I first started experiencing, because I go through these, don't be afraid of meditation. But, that's okay. Like I just said, Spirit showed me the forest and said, what was I scared of? The very thing that I was scared of. I went to an energy healer and he took me back through past life. And I had a very, very strong past life vision of something that had happened to me. And since then, I've had so much confirmation about this. It's just quite incredible. But I had a dream that I was leading an army and I was on a horse, and I had on some sort of tribal outfit, clothing, and I had a head thing on, and it was shaped like the sun. And I was leading into battle a group of people. I was only young, probably only about 16, 17, on this horse with a shield. And in the vision that he showed me, I died. And for years, I never really thought much more about it. I knew I'd been into a past life. I could see that quite clearly, but I didn't really understand it. And when I first made contact with my main spirit guide, I found out that he's an Aztec, and he apparently was my brother. And he showed me that he was there when I died, and he felt responsible because he'd sent me into battle, and he'd always vowed that he would stay with me and make sure that, I'm going to get really emotional here, he would stay with me and protect me. So he's been with me ever since. He has a name that I cannot pronounce. It's really long. So he just said to me, you call me Jim. So I've called him Jim forever. He gave me a name, and I didn't know what the name meant. So I went and looked it up, and in English it means little lily. And so he called me Little Lily. That was his nickname for me. And we apparently worshipped a sun god, hence the thing I had around my head. And he is very tall. He's a very big man. He's extremely funny. He gives me a hard time sometimes, but that's okay. I work with him. He works with me. And sometimes at nighttime, I feel my bed shift because I can feel that he's around me. So I have often the bed moving, which is quite interesting. And something happened the other day, and I was watching something, and somebody came on and said something about little Lily, and something to do with the Aztecs. And I went, okay. So I, probably about 10 years ago, had my Akashic record done, or Akashic record, whatever you like to call it. And then she said something about being an Aztec in my past life, and that I had a war cry that I spoke, and that was in my Akashic records. So there's no denying that what I have seen and what I know to be true are one and the same. And I always think that was the most beautiful thing. So it's really good to find out. Past life regression. that was what I did with this energy healer, because I was working on the energy in my body. I'd been going through a really hard time. I go through these phases where my body just gets so tired from absorbing energy, and I get pain in my body. And it was one of those times when I had a lot of problems, and this energy healer took me through that past life. So, okay, the life path number 6, what type of person are the sixes? Does anybody would like to add to everyone's, does anybody know about life path numbers? I really don't know all of them. I only know my own because I'm a number 9. But if we want to talk about that, I'm quite happy to grab some information to talk about it later. Yeah, don't be afraid of meditation, Louisa. It is a bit, you do feel a little bit vulnerable because you're really sort of offering your whole self up, like you're really going into your body, and sort of it feels a bit vulnerable when you're doing it, I guess. But once I get into a meditation, sometimes I'm so far into the meditation, I'd rather stay there than come out because it's so peaceful and so beautiful. Okay, so does everybody know how to find their life path number? Maybe we could come on. Yeah, you can Google them. You can. It would be nice to talk about it though, and it's just a matter of adding all the numbers in your birth date together. So if you were born on the 1st of February 1950, then you'd add the 1950, the 2 for February, and the 1st. Okay, so that's how you find it out. So if you want to do that and find out what number, so if you come up with 2 numbers, if as long as they're not 11, 22, or 33, because they're master numbers and they're different, you can't add them together. So say, for example, if you're the 1st of February 1950, so that's 1 for the 1st, 2 for the February, and 1950, that's 1950. So it's 9, 14, 15, 17, 18. Add 8 and 1, you would come up with 9. So that is your life path number. And I've sort of done a bit of that, and I've done a little bit of the working out what numbers you're missing in your birth number as well, which often gives you an indicator of what you need to work on in this lifetime. 1 is very much a leader. What I'll do is I'll bring a book up with me next time. I've got so much stuff downstairs on my bookcase. I've got a book on numbers, so we can perhaps have a look at that. As I said, I've never been really into numerology. I like it. I find it very interesting. But yeah, we might do some of that next time. Maybe leave the twin flame thing for next weekend so everybody can get on board. I better get off though. We've been doing well over an hour here. So, it's 4:44, people. See? 4:44, and I'm going to finish up. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a really good chat. So I'll catch you tomorrow. So I'm sure somebody know about druids, everyone. So what we'll do is we maybe sort of catch up on that tomorrow when we're online, and have another chat about something else. Thank you. Oh, I love you too, Jules. Thank you. I love you too. Take care. Be good, or be good at it. Mwah. See you next time.